Greetings YouTube, this is Sixus, and today I have my Sylvan deck profile for you. So, starting with the main deck, we have 3 copies of Sylvan Hermitry. First of all, with Sylvans, the thing is they focus around the excavating mechanic, which is kind of similar to Lightsworn's milling mechanic. It's just that you get to see the card, and then if it fits some criteria, which in this case is being a plant monster, then it's into the graveyard. So basically less risky than the Lightsworn meal. Now, as far as Hermitry, its effect is that when it's excavated and sent to the graveyard, you can then look at the top 3 cards of your deck, arrange them in any order you want. Which actually is not even optional, so it's mandatory. The other aspect of the effect is that if it's on the field, you can use the effect to excavate the top card, and if it's a plant, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, you get to draw another card. Very good with consistency. Sticking with the trees, we have Sylvan Sage Koya. This is a level 7 that states that if it is excavated and sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add a Sylvan spell trap card from your graveyard back to your hand. Very good for recycling. It also has the self-specimen effect, which states that if a Sylvan card is sent to the graveyard, you can specimen this from your hand. So, it's a win effect, so it can miss timing. But things like being destroyed by battle, and when a Sylvan is sent, or rather excavated then sent to the graveyard, then that would trigger the effect. Additionally, while this is on the field, once per turn, you can excavate the top card of your deck. If it's a plant, send it to the graveyard. Fairly simple. Next up, we got 2 copies of Rose Paladin. The main aspect of this is that you can discard it to add a level 7 or higher plant to your hand. Good at searching out Sage Koya or Hermitry. Yeah, not a lot of cards you can search with this, but it's still useful and it increases consistency. Next up, we got 2 copies of Sylvan Monster Leaf. If this card is normal summoned, you can choose number between 1 or 2. Excavate that many cards from the top of your deck. Send any of the plants excavated by this effect to the graveyard. And if it itself is excavated into the graveyard, you can destroy 1 monster on the field, or specifically that your opponent controls, I think. Oh, it's just monster on the field. Okay. So it's good for spot removal. We also have 3 copies of Lone Fire Blossom because it's not once per turn. You can tribute any plant and not just itself to bring out any plant from your deck. No restriction whatsoever. Next up, we have Sylvan Cosmos Rumo. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. So, when this one is flip face up, it has 2000 defense, so you're very much encouraged to set it. When it's flip face up, you can choose number between 1 and 5. Excavate that many cards from the top of your deck. Send any of the plants to the graveyard. Oh, side note, with all these excavate effect, you put back the remaining cards to the bottom of your deck. Yes, well, I said I mentioned that previously. Now, and similar to Marshall Leaf, when this one is excavated and sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can destroy a spell trap card on the field. Similar to how, well, Marshall Leaf destroys a monster. So both of them, very useful. Next up, we got 2 copies of Rose Level. This one is a hard once per turn clause, so we cannot use both of them in the same turn. But the benefit is that you can banish this from your graveyard to specimen a plant monster from your hand, and the monster you specimen by this effect is unaffected by a trap card this turn. very good. Gives you a layer of protection, makes you don't have to worry about any kind of mill forces or any other battle traps. Next up, we got Spore. It's a plant-based archetype, so the effect is very easy. It's a once per duo effect, so you can only use it once. That's it. You can banish a plant monster from your graveyard, special this out, and this card gains a level of the plant monster banished to special on this. So let's say you banish Lone Flower Blossom, it would gain the 3, meaning when it gets on the field, it will become a 4. This allows for a lot of different kinds of synchro plays. Next up, we got 2 copies of Sylvan Peacekeeper. The thing about Peacekeeper is that when it's normal or special summoned, you can excavate the top card of your deck. If it's a plant, send it to the graveyard. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of the deck. The real benefit of it is if you excavate it and send it to the graveyard, you get to special summon a level 4 lower plant from your graveyard, which is actually really good for bringing back Lone Flower Blossom, because like I said, there's no once per turn clause at all. You can just keep on doing that. You can keep on swarming the field by reusing Lone Flower. Next up, we got Cherry Sprout. The thing about Cherry Sprout is that when it's special summoned, you can choose a number between 1 and 2, excavate that many cards from the top of your deck, and if this card itself is excavated and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 level 1 plant from your deck. This is actually extremely useful because we are running 10 level 1 plants, meaning this is just a very easy 1-for-1. Next up, we got 2 copies of Princess Sprout. With Princess Sprout, its 2 effects is that 1, you can tribute this card to excavate the top card of your deck and send it to the graveyard. Then you can place a Sprout monster, that being this itself or Cherry Sprout, to the top of your deck. And the reason you would want to put this on top of your deck is because the excavate effect for this one is that when excavated sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special it back and you get to declare a number between 1 and 9, and that's what its level becomes. Again, this is incredible for Synchro or even Xyz plays, because this one card can become any level between 1 and 9. Next up, we got Glow Bulb. It sends to the graveyard, which is kind of fitting. And similar to Spore, it's a once per duo effect. Either way, it's really good for synchro plays, and because both this and Spore are level 1 plants, they can be brought out by Cherry Sprout. Of course, 1-for-1. Like I said, 10 level 1s, so it's very useful. Terraforming to search out the field spell, which we'll get to later. Only 1 terraforming because it's not that necessary, because the Sage Courier can recover the field spell. Next up, we got 3 copies of Sylvan Blessing. With this one, you draw 3 cards, then you have, if you have a Sylvan card in your hand, reveal 2 cards from your hand, including at least 1 Sylvan card. Place those on the top of your deck in any order. Draw 3, put back 2 Sylvans. So it's stacking the deck and it's added consistency. And of course, it's recoverable by Sage Courier. Next up, we got 3 copies of Miracle Fertilizer. This is basically a monster born for the deck. And the thing is, it's a continuous spell, and it says that if you have not normal summoned this turn, or set, you can special summon a plant monster from your graveyard. Given how many plays you can do without a normal summon in this deck, that's actually very useful. Moving on, we got 3 copies of Mount Sylvania. The thing about Sylvania is that it's the field spell, and you can send a plant from your hand or field to the graveyard to search your deck for a Sylvan, put that on the top of your deck, so it's good for stacking the deck, and at the end of your opponent's turn, you can excavate the top card of your deck. If it's a plant, send it to the graveyard. Otherwise, put it on the top or bottom of the deck. So, let's say you excavate Sylvan Charity, because it says you can put any Sylvan card on top of your deck. You can check to see if it's Charity and put it to your hand, or if it's a card you don't need at the moment, you can just put it on the bottom of the deck. So, good at stopping dead draws. Next up, we got 2 copies of Sylvan Blessing. This is a normal trap card that says you can place 1 card from your hand to either the top or bottom of the deck against stacking the deck. And if you do, special on 1 Sylvan monster from your hand or graveyard, and is unaffected by all other card effects this turn. And during the end phase, place it on either the top or bottom of the deck. The protection is amazing, so you get rid of the card, but if you have additional setup to go with it, you have the ability to, yes, bring it right back. Next up, we got 2 copies of Paulineosis. This is a counter trap that says if your opponent would normal summon, special summon, or activate a spell or trap card, you can tribute 1 plant monster to negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. I'm wanting this instead of the Solemns because hopefully we're going to be getting the Aroma Sylvie Link monster at some point. And because that one has a lot to do with life points, it's probably not going to be beneficial to keep paying life points. That's also why I took Soul Charge out of this. Next up, we got number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. That is a really long name. Anyway, so it's a rank 8, and the best thing about it is that it actually has several effects, but the only one that I actually use the most is its ability to negate a spell, card, or effect, and equip that to this as an Xyz material. It's just really good at locking down spell cards, and it's 3000 attack, so it's actually very dangerous to deal with. Next up, we got Divine Dragon Knight Felgran. This one is during either player's turn, you can detach an Xyz material from this card, then target a face-up monster on the field. This turn, its effects are negated, but is unaffected by all other card effects. Don't go into this as much, but it is useful for the quick effect protection. Next up, we got Alce, the Sylvan High Protector. With this one, it's again a rank 8. And its effect is that you can declare 1 card name, excavate the top card of your deck. If it is the name you declared, add it to your hand, otherwise send it to the graveyard. Oh yeah, and if a card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, you can, by a card effect that is, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, then target 1 card on the field, place it on either top or bottom of the deck. So, you excavate a Sylvan or anything like that by its own effect and send it to the graveyard, or actually by any of the effects really. You can pretty much remove a card on the field to the deck, and you get to choose whether you want that to be on top of the deck or the bottom of the deck. So you can effectively make your opponent have a dead draw. Moving on, we got number 23, Lancelot Dark Knight of the Underworld. This one can attack, it only still doesn't attack, but it can attack directly while it has Xyz material. And this next part is not optional, this is 100% mandatory. When a spell or trap or monster effect is activated, detach a material from this card, negate the activation. This applies to both you and the opponent. The negation is still good at stopping stuff, and it's still giving you a 2000 direct attack. The only downside is that you can't do any effects either. Up next, we got the rank 7, Oya, the Sylvan High Orbital. This one is that you can send a plant monster from your hand or field to the graveyard, then check cards for, look at the top cards of your deck equal to that monster's level on the field. So let's say you sent Hermit Tree, which is a level 8. You'll be able to check the top 8 cards of your deck, then arrange them in any order you want. The other effect is that you can detach an Xyz material from this to look at top 1 or 3 cards. Choose a number between 1 or 3. You get to check that many. And any plants that you excavate are sent to the graveyard, and then you can return cards on the field to the hand equal to the number of plants sent to the graveyard by this effect. Next up, we got Sylvan Princess Sprite. This is a rank 1, very easy to make. And the effect is that you can detach an Xyz material from this card, activate the top card of your deck, and if it is a spell or trap card, add to your hand. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. Unlike the other ones, this one can actually add Sylvan Charity and some of the other spell trap lineup to your hand. The other one just required plant monsters, so this one actually adds some more flexibility to the archetype. The other effect is that you can send a plant type monster from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard to target a Sylvan monster in your graveyard special on that target. You can only use this effect once per turn. It's a revival effect. It's very good. Next up, we got Leo, the Keeper of the Sacred Tree. It's a level 10 synchro, and the effect is this card cannot be targeted during your opponent's card effects during your main, except for during your main phase 2. So there's a limited window of time in which this 31 attack monster can be targeted. It can still be destroyed by every other way. It's just a little bit of inconvenience. What's a bigger inconvenience is crystalling and clearing. The thing about crystal and clearing is that both of them focus around negation and are very difficult to attack over with high level monsters. Now, the problem is this one requires the negated cards to be level 5 or higher monsters, which we now have Lynx and Xyz. Not nearly as common as they once were. Next up, Black Rose Dragon. Summon it, blow up the field. Despite this being a plant-based archetype, I still have yet to use the additional effect of it. Now, Queen of Thorns. This level 6 synchro has the effect that each player must pay 1,000 life points to normal or special non-plant monsters from their hand. This would actually help out a lot with the aroma, as it would help ensure that your opponent's life points are lower than yours, helping you with the Aroma Sylvie Link Monsters effects. Next up, we got Core Dragon. Once per turn, you can detach discard one card. Target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. If this synchro summon card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can draw one card. Simple enough. Yeah, I tried to balance it out so there was 6 synchros and 6 Xyz, and I have enough space left open for the Wilma link. But yeah, that's the deck profile. That's all for this time.